everybody, welcome to Sports for All. So I've got a really exciting guest today, so do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Natalie Doyle, or Nat. Most people call me Nat. I'm the founder of Sports Sister. We work with different organisations to get more women and girls into sport.
Amazing, thank you so much for coming on that. So my first question is, do you want to tell us a bit about your sporting background, maybe what you got involved in growing up and the different roles that you've had?
Yeah, sure. So when I was growing up, I suppose always enjoyed sport. Never particularly good at most of them, but I enjoyed it for fun. Football was my main sport that I followed. Like I was a big football fan, but didn't get the chance to play it until I was probably about 15, I would say. Got a chance to play it at school. Absolutely loved it. We used to just play like small-sided because there wasn't enough generally to get an 11-a-side team together. I think we used to just play like one 11-a-side match a year and none of us knew what we were doing. And then tried to play at a club outside, but there weren't any local clubs nearby for girls. So there starts my mission to try and make sport more accessible for girls, basically. So started working in sport about nearly 20 years ago, I would say, if I'm testing my maths. And I worked for local authorities, community trusts, doing sort of football coaching initially, and then moved into football development. Then I started to work for London FA, and I worked there for probably about a decade, I would say, having 5 or 6 different jobs, various things that I got involved in. But women and girls was always the passion. Women and girls football was always my main driver. Then I went to work for the FA and I worked there leading their work on supporting grassroots clubs and leagues and getting more women and girls teams and more women and girls competitions. Then I got made redundant during the pandemic, as lots of people did. I considered working for myself in the past, and that's me the nudge to give it a go. Initially, I thought I'd just do a bit of consultancy stuff for a few months because I didn't just want to apply for jobs for the sake of applying for jobs. So I thought I'll give it a go for a few months. And then once I started working for myself, I was just like, I'm never going back. I can't be employed anymore. I got too used to the flexibility and the freedom of making your own decisions and sort of the excitement of building something for myself. So I set up Sports Sister in 2021. And we've worked with organisations such as the FA, the ECB, Youth Sport Trust, loads of big organisations to help them get more women and girls into sport. And then last year we launched Sports Sister Community, which is like our community arm of the business, which is all about providing, at the moment, football programs for girls. So after school clubs and holiday clubs. But long-term plan is to grow that to cover more of the country, but also to maybe start offering other sports where girls are also underrepresented. Obviously, women's football's had a really exciting time in the last few years with the Red Roses this year. We've got the women's cricket team as well at the moment in the World Cup. So there's lots of exciting times happening in women's sports. So we want to try and take the things that we've learned from football and then use that to help girls get involved in whatever sport they want to get involved in.
Yeah, definitely. It's so nice to see such a positive trajectory upwards. Hopefully it'll continue.
Yeah,
And
hopefully. I mean, didn't I think when got made redundant, it didn't feel so positive, but I think it was one of those things where sometimes the best things come from the worst things, don't they? So yeah, it was actually probably the best thing that happened to me, which is probably a weird thing to say about losing your job.
yeah, it's funny how these things really lift your perspective, and then you're like, oh, right,
Yeah.
okay, actually, I'm kind of glad that I've now got this, and then you seem really passionate about it as well, and you seem like you love it. So I'm really interested in finding out. I know you've had so many different job roles. Has there been one that you've learned a lot from, and or do you have a favorite?
I would say the ones that I've learned the most from are the ones that haven't been my favorite
Yeah.
because I've always been very much around, like always open to taking on new responsibilities. And I think that's probably what's helped me build a career in sport is the fact that I've always been open to trying different things and getting involved in new areas that I maybe wasn't as experienced in. And that's taught me a lot in both good ways and bad ways in terms of things to replicate going forward, but also things that I wouldn't do. My favorite, I mean, I when I got the job at the FA, that was the dream. That was the dream job. That's what I'd always been working towards. And So in a way, that was my favourite. But I'd actually say probably, apart from my current job, which is my actual favourite, being my own job, being my own boss. But when I started at London FA as a Women and Girls Development Officer at a time when the FA had basically just put a lot of funding into getting women and girls development officers in all the county FAs. So there was a really good group of people in county FAs at that time, sort of new roles generally, newly created posts who were having a really positive impact. And I think that time was really exciting because it felt like something was really building. We hadn't, there wasn't the lioness of success that there is now. I mean, the team was certainly making progress, and the game was making massive progress, but there was still so far to go. And I think that was a really exciting time to be involved and to have so many other mostly women involved in the game at the same time, all trying to do the same sort of things in their own local areas, was a really exciting time to be involved. So I'd probably say, apart from now, that was probably my favourite. That's my favourite employed role, I would say.
Yeah, fair enough. It sounds really like such a pivotal time to be involved. And now, obviously, you've been able to see that progression. Now you're working for yourself. And I think that's really interesting to see how it's gone nicely up. So my next question is, you've kind of already talked a little bit about Sports Sisters, but do you want to tell everybody a little bit more about it, the idea behind it and what other things you guys do and how maybe people can get involved as well if they would like to?
Yeah, of course. So there's a couple of different parts to the business, I suppose. So the first bit, which was always kind of the bit that was the focus at the start, is around working with organisations who want to get more women and girls into sport. So usually that's by providing project management services or by providing training. So sometimes when it comes to a project, we might get brought in for a specific project where there's not capacity within the staff team for them to have someone to manage it. Or maybe they've got particular pot of funding that they've managed to get, but they don't have a member of staff who's able to lead that project. So we take that on. We've worked with the Youth Sport Trust a couple of times, and that's usually when they have a member of staff leaving, but they have a project that needs to carry on for the, say, 3 to 4 months that it takes to recruit their replacement. So I'll come in and keep that project ticking over until the new person is in post. The other part is training. So we run online or face-to-face training for either staff. So we're working on a project at the moment with the FA doing some training for their county FA staff. And we've done similar things with the ECB around staff for their county boards. And we'll train them in various topics. So, for example, we've done one specifically around developing girls sections in clubs, but we've also done them around managing stakeholder relationships or building rapport with volunteers or handling challenging conversations, all sorts of different topics that we do. So and we also sometimes run training for the volunteers within the clubs themselves. So really varied, that side of things. But I really like that because I think the project management stuff is really good and it's great to really have a project that you can get your teeth into. But the training stuff is always good because you see the people
Yeah.
who are having a real impact on the ground in terms of getting people involved. And they just need support in a certain area. And it's really good to be able to come in and sort of deliver a training session that will actually help them with developing their skills in their role. So that's really exciting. We also provide a number of different resources for clubs. So we have regular blog posts on our website, which are around a number of different topics. So it might be around using sport to develop leadership skills or recruiting volunteers or finding facilities, loads of different stuff. There's hundreds of posts on the website now that we've built up over the last 4 years. And they're really useful for clubs and volunteers to access. We used to have a podcast, which is currently on pause just because I don't have time to do all of the things.
Fair enough.
But obviously, all of the episodes are out there previously. And what we did with that is that we brought sort of grassroots pioneers, if you like, so brilliant volunteers who are doing amazing things in clubs and leagues with sort of professional people who work in sport. So we might bring together somebody who works from the FA with somebody from a club and they talk about their experiences in their different environments. But often there's lots of sort of common threads that run through that. So there's lots of good episodes of that as well for people to access. And then, as I said, the second part, the sort of final part, if you like, is sports sister community. So I'm based in Kent. So at the moment it's Kent specific, providing after school clubs for girls, football, and holiday clubs for girls as well. So that is really at the start of its journey. It's less than a year. I think it was January, February we started that. But it's been fantastic again to just sort of get on the grass again and sort of see girls experiencing football for the first time. Some have never played, and just give them good quality experiences. And I think we've also been really lucky that I've managed to recruit some fantastic female coaches to support the work that we do in schools, and we're very passionate about that. That the whole team is all female coaches, so they're really positive role models for the girls. But also, it's just a really good way to, I think, everybody agrees that there's a lot to be done still to develop female coaches and get more women into coaching. So we're really passionate about making sure that that happens as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sounds so exciting and it'll be so good to like see it grow. It sounds like it's growing amazingly, even if it's only just started in the last like year. So really, really exciting for the future of female coaches.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Such amazing work that you're doing, so keep it up. So my next question is, this is a really big one. Who are some of your inspirations both in sports but also in life?
Big question. In sport, I mean, there's so many, and there's so many more these days as well than there were when I was growing up. I think anybody who shows that sort of resilience and determination to get to the top of their sport is hugely impressive. I think when I was much younger, sort of like Dame Kelly Holmes was always somebody that you looked up to because she always had so many knockbacks, and then eventually she just kept powering through until she eventually had her Olympic success, which was really inspiring. I think now when you look at people who have sort of had really successful careers in sports, so somebody like Alex Scott, for example, would been a fantastically successful sportswoman and then has forged a whole new career in a different part of the industry. I think that's really inspiring. And I think especially these days when female pundits and presenters in sport especially get so much criticism and commentary on what they're doing, I think it's a really difficult industry to build a career in. So I think people like that are really inspiring. I mean, in terms of in life, it's a bit of a it's a bit of a cheesy answer actually, but I've got two boys, and everything. The joy of being self-employed for me has been about being able to be around for them and be there for school events and all of those sort of things, and all of the different clubs and interests that they haven't been able to support that. So I suppose that would probably be my life inspiration. But yeah, I mean, there's so many fantastic role models now throughout the world of sport that it's, for young girls who are coming into it, I just think it's a fantastic time for them to see the Lionesses and the Red Roses, completely different types of women doing different amazing sporting achievements. I think it's really exciting for any young girls.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's so many coming through and will continue to come through as well as people grow up, and then a lot of
Yeah,
the young ones will maybe be that inspiration for somebody else, and it's really nice to kind of
yeah.
think that there are those people out there because like even 10 years ago there definitely wasn't as many. And I love what you said about your sons as well. That's really sweet.
Yeah, I mean they obviously I'm not doing anything to get more girls into sport in that respect because I've got two boys, but yeah, it's good to have the flexibility now through being self-employed to be around for them a little bit
Yeah,
more.
absolutely. And they will really like be able to look back on that when they get older and be like, oh, my mum was around, like she was able to do. I know that I do that for my mum. So my next question is, what do you think are the main skills that young people learn through sport, and how do you think these help in other aspects of their lives?
Oh, this is a big one that I talked about the blog posts earlier, or I write a new blog post every week, and this is a big thing that I write about is about the other ways that sport has a positive impact on children and young people. And I think that's the big one for me. Obviously, it's brilliant that it keeps you healthy and active. That is good. It's really important to have healthy, active lives, but I think it's all of the other things that it teaches you are the real benefits to sport. So teaching you about working as part of a team, teaching you about how to cope with losing, because it's just part of sport, that sort of building up that sort of resilience, teaching you about communication and how you effectively communicate with people, and how you, I think it's a really good way of teaching respect for your teammates, for the opposition, for officials, all of those sort of things. I think that's the real big one for me, is about all the different skills that, because most people, they aren't going to be professional sports people. You get involved in it because it makes you enjoy it and it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's actually, whatever your career is going to be, is all of those things that you learn through sport, are a really valuable part of developing your character and developing your skills, and they'll make you such a better rounded person as you get older. I'm sure I saw a stat the other day, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was something about girls who play sport, and I can't remember what the percentage is, are much more likely to have successful careers in later life, because they develop all of these sort of skills when they're younger. And I think that's a real, for me, that's the most important part of sport.
Yeah, I so agree. I think there's so much transferable skills, and you don't realize it obviously until you're older and then you're looking for jobs or applying, even for university as well, like
Yeah.
doing those applications and those interviews, and you've got loads there already. Like the amount of examples you can use in your time in sport is, well, endless, really. Uh,
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. And whatever, like you say, if it's for university, if it's for jobs, if it's whatever it is, it's just fantastic experience that you can call on. And when if you're in an interview for something and you're trying to think of examples of things that you've done to develop, to sort of demonstrate those skills that you have, nearly, if you especially if you're at the start of your career and you don't have all of that work experience to call upon, all of that experience from sport are really good examples that always, are really useful in those sort of situations.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's so nice to you have that at the back of your head. Like even if you're stuck in an interview, you're like, oh, I've got my sport. I can
Yeah,
gain something from that. Yeah,
definitely.
so important. So my next question is, this is another big one. What do you think are some barriers that people face getting involved, but also staying involved in sport? I think that's also something that we don't often talk about, the staying piece.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really true. I think first of all, you have to acknowledge the fact that having children involved in sport is a big commitment, like both for the kids and also for the parents. Like it's training at least once a week, matches at the weekends, traveling around to different places. It's the financial commitment, it's the time commitment. When it's, especially if it's like a winter sport, if it's like football or rugby or something, and you're out there in freezing cold, it's chucking it down with rain in winter, and you're still out there. Like it's a huge commitment. Um, so sort of credit to anybody who, either if they're the children who are doing it themselves, or if it's, parents who are supporting. It's a huge credit for people who overcome that initial barrier. I think cost can still be a barrier. I think what's fantastic is you do see a lot of, clubs now who have like hardship funds or whatever, or, boot swaps, all these different things to try and overcome those sort of financial barriers and make it as accessible as possible. Um, I think especially as you mentioned around staying involved in sport, I think inevitably we all know that as people get older, especially girls, other things come
Yeah.
into their lives, other distractions, other interests, concerns about body image and what they look like when they're doing sport. All of these different things come in that are reasons for people to not stay involved. And I think that's, it can be a really challenging time, because it's actually probably a time when staying involved in sport would be most useful, both in terms of the physical and sort of mental health benefits. It'd be really important. I did write a post about this as well, actually, around the sort of benefits of sport to adolescent girls. Um, and I think that's a real challenge. Um, the other thing that I think can be a bit of a barrier is, my son, one of my sons is really into football, but he doesn't play for a team. He wants to be a goalkeeper and he can't find any teams who are looking for goalkeepers. And he attends a session which is run by an organisation called the Fun Football Factory, who are absolutely fantastic. And I would really recommend them, because they don't run teams, they just do training, but it's all really fun. The coaches are brilliant. And part of me is a bit glad that he hasn't got involved in a team, because I think one of the big barriers can be behaviour of some parents in grassroots
Yeah.
football in particular, can be really challenging. And when I speak to some friends of mine who have kids who are involved in grassroots football in particular, and some of the behaviour that they witness at the weekend for matches is absolutely blows my mind. And I think that's when you get back to it. When I spoke earlier around, most people get involved in sport because it's fun, and then does sometimes that sort of parental behaviour makes it not fun because it's too
Yeah.
much pressure and it's not the right environment for kids to be playing football in. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done on that side of things. And I know, I think it's a big focus for the FA and county FAs at the moment, but yeah, I think that can be a big barrier, and it's certainly something that has led me, to be honest, to be quite glad that my son's not involved in a grassroots team because, yeah, it can be difficult. I think a difficult environment sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can kind of lead you to lose sight of why you started and like lose that fun piece as well. Because obviously
Yeah,
you're getting so much pressure from the adults, but then you end up putting loads of pressure on yourself then as well. And it's like,
yeah,
why am I even doing this anymore? Like it's not fun. It's just becoming a bit of a thing I have to go to every week. I know
yeah. It
like
becomes a bit of a chore, doesn't it? Which isn't really the idea. It's just meant to be for fun, and I think it does. Sometimes we do sort of lose focus of that a little bit.
yeah, I know like even in my club, like a lot of people when they get to that kind of higher end of the taekwondo, they go into the competitions, they do the exams, but that seems to be a big focus and you don't actually just
Yeah.
enjoy going to training.
And you got involved in it in the first place, isn't it? Like it's always just because you enjoy it. That's why you start doing it. So yeah, it's very easy to lose focus of that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So my last question is do you have any advice to anybody wanting to get involved in sport but who might not have the confidence, be that through career or just playing as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a playing point of view, I have this conversation with my son quite a bit because sometimes he gets nervous before he goes to a training session. He always loves it once he's there, but he gets a bit nervous before he goes. And what I always say to him is, "How do you remember how good everybody else was at the last session?" And he always says no. I was like, nobody else is paying any attention to what you're doing. Everybody is so wrapped up in their own stuff that they do not care. If you went there and made loads of mistakes, everyone would forget about it immediately because they're all too busy worrying about their own stuff. So no one's watching you, no one's paying attention to what you're doing. They're just worrying about their own situation. So don't even worry about it. So if you're worried that you're going to go there and you're not going to be good enough, which I think is quite a common thing
Yeah.
for young people in general when they go to sport, is they think, yeah, but everyone else is going to be brilliant. First of all, they're not. Everyone's just in the same situation as you. There'll be some people who have obviously got natural talent to it or have been doing it for longer and are more comfortable. But no one's paying any attention to what everybody else is doing. I think from a work point of view, sport, I mean, I think my advice to any young people, and it will be certainly my advice to my own children as they get older, is that if you can build a career in something you love, then it's an absolute joy.
Yeah.
So I know plenty of people who have jobs that they don't like and they go to work because they have to go to work because everyone has to go to work. We all got bills to pay and all of that sort of stuff. So I feel really lucky that I built a career in sport because I love sport. I'm really passionate about it. And I wouldn't say, what's the saying where it says, if you work in something you love, you never work a day in your life? I wouldn't say it's always like that. Sometimes you do work and it's like, oh, you're pleased for the weekend.
Weekend.
But yeah, exactly. But it makes such a difference being able to work in something that you enjoy. So I think if you love sport, there are so many different careers in sport. Whatever your interests are, whatever your talent is, everybody's got something that they're really good at, and there's almost certainly a way that you can link that back to sport. I used to do a lot of talks in one of my previous roles at London FA in like schools and colleges about careers in football, because if you're good at maths, if you're good at cooking, if you're good at textiles, if you're good at DT, whatever it might be, there's some way that you can link that back into sport. There's always a career in sport that requires those sort of skills, whether it's in finance or whether it's in catering or whether it's in sports science or whatever it will be. If you love sport, then I would 100% encourage you to try and build a career in it because it's a really fantastic industry to work in. It's really competitive, obviously, as you would expect, because lots
Yeah.
of people in sport are very competitive. But there's so many opportunities there. I think if you're really ready to sort of take the opportunities, take on extra responsibilities when you can, and work hard, then there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah, I love that advice. I think it's so important to find something that you love and keep fighting for it, even if you feel like maybe there aren't those opportunities like local to you, that they will come and you will find them, and just keep sight of what you kind of set out to do and just keep the love going. I think it's so important.
Yeah, 100%. And if the opportunities aren't there, then that means that there's a massive window of opportunity there for you to create it. So if it doesn't exist, there's a chance somebody's going to come along and build it at some point. So it could be you to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Thank you so much. I've had such a great chat and it's been so nice to have you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been lovely. Great way to spend the morning having a nice chat.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. If you want to connect with me further, you can find me on LinkedIn at Eden Byrne, and be sure to check out all the other amazing podcasts on Be the Change Media Network.